Thousands of gun owners recently found out the hard way that their favorite rifles, shotguns, and pistols are now caught in a legislative snare they never saw coming. No press blitz, no televised debates, just a quiet rewrite buried in a committee that transformed a simple bill into a sweeping ban. How did a narrow proposal aimed at 50 cal rifles explode into a law that targets nearly every semi-auto in the state? In this video, we'll talk about how a bill that was supposed to target a niche 50 caliber market mutated into the widest firearms ban America has ever seen, what the playbook means for every gun owner on the mainland, and how we can slam the brakes before this strategy spreads coast to coast. House Bill 893 began life as a 500-word attempt to yank 50 cal rifles off island shelves. Nasty, but at least you could read it during a coffee break. Then it missed a filing deadline and should have died for a year. Instead, leadership stripped the text, welded on 2,000 fresh words, stamped a new number, Senate Bill 401, and reintroduced it with barely a whisper of public notice. The rewrite yanks the choke cord on anything with a detachable magazine, bans semi-auto shotguns that accept more than 9 shells, and invents a category called assault pistols for compact handguns wearing threaded barrels or vertical grips. If your carbine happens to use a fixed 15-round box, too bad. Capacity alone lands it in the penalty box. Collectors of wood and steel classics aren't spared. The M1 carbine has fed freedom since 1942, yet because 10-round magazines were never factory standard, future transfers are forbidden. An M1A with a flash hider and bayonet lug? Banned. The Ruger Mini 14 and Mini 30, rifles so traditional that Colorado's legislature once waved them through, land on the naughty list here. Lever action makers are sweating. If any company threads a modern loading gate for detachable mags, that venerable platform becomes future contraband under the bill's catch-all phrasing. Shotgun hunters get dinged too. Any semi-auto that can accept an extension tube past the magic 9-shot limit is frozen in time. Let's pause for a quick gut check. Does this outrage feel like an island oddity or a crystal ball for your own state? Scroll down and drop your first reaction. I read every comment, and your feedback decides what stories I dig into next, so make yourself heard before another committee chair kills the mic. Back to the sausage factory. By renaming a dead bill rather than introducing a fresh one, anti-gun lawmakers sidestepped the normal public notice clock. Hearings were announced with so little lead time that many citizens on neighboring islands couldn't snag flights or take time off work. Gun owners still packed the chamber, spoke until the timer buzzed, and watched committee chairs invoke decision-making by recess, a maneuver that reconvenes the vote in a side room where no cameras roll. The measure cleared the House in record time and now cruises toward a friendly Senate and a governor who signs every control bill that crosses his desk. That coup piles onto an already brutal framework that already makes a trip to a Honolulu gun counter feel like a visit to the DMV on steroids. To buy a single handgun, Hawaiians have to pull a permit tied to that exact serial number, as if the state has to bless each individual pistol like it's a newborn baby. Then comes the mugshot routine. 2 glossy passport photos, a set of prints rolled in black ink, the kind of fee that makes you wonder where the privilege of exercising a right begins and where extortion ends, followed by a mandatory 14-day cool-off that treats adults like toddlers on a timeout. And if you decide you want a bolt gun for pig hunting, start over, because long guns demand a completely separate permission slip, another round of photos, another wait in the snail-paced queue. Once the gun is finally in your hands, you can't just head to the range and celebrate. You've got 5 days to hustle over potholed roads and traffic-choked H1 to a police station so the desk sergeant can log the serial number into a statewide database. Concealed carry, meanwhile, exists mostly as folklore. A paltry 227 permits in a population nudging 1.5 million, about the same odds as spotting a snowman on Waikiki. Layer Senate Bill 401 on top of that, and you're staring at a regime that smirks. Sure, keep what you already own. Just never fix a broken extractor, leave it to your kids, or take it with you if the Navy transfers you to the mainland. Supporters insist they're only snaring military-style weapons, tossing out focus-grouped buzzwords like pistol grip, threaded muzzle, or vertical foregrip used when shooting full auto, as if saying those terms out loud conjures up images of Navy SEALs kicking indoors. It's the kind of language meant to spook people unfamiliar with firearms into thinking the average law-abiding gun owner is stockpiling battlefield tools. But anyone who's actually handled a semi-automatic rifle knows exactly how they work. One trigger pull, one shot. That's it. Doesn't matter if the grip is angled or vertical, or if the barrel has a thread for a legally useless flash hider. The way these lawmakers talk, you'd think the presence of a plastic rail somehow transforms a rimfire plinker into a belt-fed machine gun. And yet, this bill doesn't stop at rifles that look tactical. It ropes in anything with a silhouette that makes politicians nervous. Thumbhole stocks, used for ergonomics more than anything, are now suspect. Forward hand stops, which exist to prevent shooters from accidentally torching their fingers on a hot barrel, are blacklisted. Flash suppressors that help preserve night vision at a public range? Banned. Even common handguns with accessory rails for a flashlight, standard fare for home defense, get lumped into the prohibited pile. A bone stock Ruger 1022, the kind many kids learn to shoot on, becomes a technical assault weapon the moment it wears an aftermarket chassis that allows for a grip or light. It's not about how the gun functions, it's about how it looks to people who've never used one. Meanwhile, Hawaii's violent crime rate sits near the basement of national charts, and the state's own data show firearm deaths concentrate around suicides, a tragedy untouched by magazine limits. When you count defensive gun uses, events the press rarely covers, you find lawful carriers already deterred by impossible red tape. The people losing property aren't gang members, they're retirees who bought a Garand at a gun show 30 years ago. Legal pushback is inevitable. Hawaii Firearms Coalition and the Second Amendment Foundation are drafting complaints that lean hard on the Bruin decision's text and history test. They'll show that detachable box semi-autos date back to the 19th century, that Garands and carbines served civilians for generations, and that banning them fails any historical analog. The state will parrot public safety, but Bruin ditched cost-benefit games. Early injunctions may pause enforcement, yet the Ninth Circuit often rubber stamps bans, so this fight will likely ride an elevator to Washington, D.C. Why should Texans or Floridians care? Because the tactic is exportable. Colorado cruised along until 2013. Oregon needed just one ballot measure last year, and Washington's slow boil took a decade. Each time, the script was identical. Start narrow, brand it reasonable, plug scary gaps with amendments, then pass the real wish list. Hawaii perfects the maneuver by hijacking an expired bill, dodging news cycles, and ramming a vote during tourist season. If it sticks on Oahu, Olympia and Sacramento already have blueprints. Registration greases the skids. Hawaii logs every serial number in a central database. All that's missing is a single sentence in a future statute. Possession of previously registered assault weapons is unlawful. New Jersey used the same move on bump stocks. No compensation, turn them in or become a criminal. Illinois tried it with pistol braces until courts hit pause. Once politicians know what you own, confiscation becomes an enforcement detail, not a legislative hurdle. The mental health clause widens the trap. Anyone who's ever sought counseling can be flagged. Senate Bill 401 tells authorities to deny permits if credible information hints at instability, a phrase so elastic it could include postpartum therapy. We tell veterans, it's okay to get help, then weaponize their medical files. If that virus spreads, thousands of service members will face impossible choices: seek care and risk disarmament, or suffer in silence. Economic fallout follows. Island gun shops depend on mainland distributors, remove semi-autos and detachable mags, and their bread and butter evaporates. Employees get pink slips, ranges close, and the only firearms education left comes from state-approved courses that teach nothing beyond bolt actions. When fewer citizens handle guns responsibly, neglect and accidents spike, exactly the opposite of the safety narrative. You might scoff, "I'll never live on an island, so why should I worry?" Military orders, college admissions, corporate rotations, life can drop you in Honolulu tomorrow. Under Senate Bill 401, bringing your own Glock 17 with a 20-round magazine is a felony import. You'd have to sell half your safe before wheels up. Normalize that for 10 years, and a generation grows up believing double-digit capacity is extremist hardware. Founders' intent matters. Washington, Jefferson, and Madison called for civilian parity with common infantry arms. In 1776, that meant a musket. Today, it's a light semi-auto and 30-round box. Gut that parity, and you transform citizens into subjects begging permission from armed officials. The disarmament lobby knows it. That's why modern rifles, not flintlocks, dominate their wish lists. If you want proof that feature bans morph into possession bans, scan recent history. California's 1989 Roberti Roos Act named specific models. Makers tweaked pistol grips and changed part numbers, so lawmakers came back in 1999 to prohibit characteristics. Owners swapped furniture, and Sacramento returned with Senate Bill 880 to kill bullet-button rifles, ordering owners to register or destroy them. Counties even instructed deputies to peek at social media photos while serving unrelated warrants. Feature lists also reveal how little the other side understands technology. Detachable magazines aren't futuristic. James Paris Lee patented them in 1879. Threaded barrels predate World War I, chosen not for Hollywood silencers, but to attach flash cones that save night vision. Vertical foregrips ride the 1918 bar, a rifle our grandfathers carried into Europe. These parts are everyday American heritage. Federal courts have started noticing. Judge Roger Benitez scuttled California's magazine cap, warning the state not to turn the Bill of Rights on its head. The Fourth Circuit torched Maryland's handgun roster as pointless window dressing. Post-Bruin, any statute that disarms common Americans must point to an 18th century cousin. There was no colonial ordinance banning the brown bess because it held too much powder. Remember, culture beats legislation when people refuse to be shamed. Pistol braces exploded only after the ATF tried reclassifying them. Most owners ignored the amnesty, and judges delayed enforcement. Homemade polymer 80 pistols sit atop California's crime gun list despite a decade of serial number mandates. The harder politicians squeeze, the quicker American ingenuity seeps through the cracks. So here's the nightmare for gun grabbers. Once citizens see the cycle, restrict, register, confiscate, they stop negotiating. They show up earlier, donate more, and vote with single-issue focus. Hawaii's overreach might just light that fuse on the mainland. Momentum doesn't only flow toward restriction. Illinois jammed through a semi-auto ban in January, yet county sheriffs flatly refused to enforce confiscation, and rights groups stacked injunctions so fast, the Attorney General begged for breathing room. In 2021, Virginia voters flipped the House of Delegates after a registration scheme cleared the Senate. The new majority iced the measure on day one. Even deep blue Maryland had to shrink carry ban zones once federal judges lowered the boom. We also have to confront the media blackout. Cable networks air endless panels when a governor taxes sugary drinks, yet a committee rewrite that erases an enumerated right barely rates a ticker crawl. Editors know gun policy grabs eyeballs only with flashing lights, so a dry procedural ambush gets buried under celebrity gossip. That leaves independent creators like me to dig up roll call votes, read the fine print, and sound the alarm. Algorithms won't amplify the warning unless you hammer that thumbs up, share the link, and feed the comments section. Be the signal mainstream outlets refuse to broadcast. The fight isn't over. Hawaiians can still swamp Senate phones, flood email inboxes, and pack the gallery when the final vote drops. Mainland viewers can donate to legal funds, blast this story across forums, and push their own legislators for preemption laws that quarantine bad ideas at state lines. Demand shall issue, permitting that follows Bruin, pursue constitutional carry where you lack it, and vote like your grandkids' liberties ride on each ballot. They absolutely do. I don't know about you, but I refuse to sit quietly while lawmakers chip away at a right my grandparents defended in uniform. But what do you think? Comment below, and please like, share, subscribe, and click on the bell icon for more of these videos. Thanks for watching.